Hi, I'm Blake Lively, and I'm going to be taking the BuzzFeed quiz, which iconic Blake Lively character?
Hi besties, I am Durita Bashan Lashari with Corevanta. Today we should discuss about the
The lights of Hollywood often shine brightest when someone's world begins to crumble behind the scenes. And tonight, those lights are fixed firmly on Blake Lively. Once a symbol of grace, confidence, and fairy tale love, Blake now finds herself standing in the middle of a storm she never imagined would turn public. The woman the world adored from Gossip Girl and the heartthrob wife of Ryan Reynolds is facing something far darker than paparazzi questions. She's facing her own reflection in a courtroom mirror. Insiders whisper that Blake Lively's legal fight, once meant to prove her innocence and integrity, has turned into a financial and emotional nightmare, with growing speculation that she may be preparing for a quiet, behind-closed-doors settlement just to stop the bleeding. The court of public opinion is brutal, and for someone who built her empire on control, image, and perfection, losing grip on her own narrative might be the biggest defeat of all. The story began with what seemed like a small misunderstanding. A recording, a few words, a claim that someone had threatened her. Blake insisted she had been intimidated by Justin Baldoni's financier, Steve Sautz, during the height of their legal feud. She said he'd crossed a line, that he'd issued a warning that made her fear for her safety. But when the judge ordered that audio to be unsealed, the world heard something far different than what Blake had described. No threats. No intimidación. Just a calm voice saying, "We'll spend whatever it takes to defend ourselves." It was a standard legal statement, but Blake had twisted it into a weapon, turning it into a headline about fear, control, and danger. The revelation backfired spectacularly. Suddenly, her credibility came into question. And when credibility collapses in Hollywood, reputation follows. For months, Blake tried to maintain silence. Her PR team crafted delicate statements. Her legal advisors handled the press, and Ryan Reynolds reportedly begged her to avoid escalating the drama. But silence can sometimes sound like guilt. Insiders close to the case claim that after the audio was made public, the judge's attitude shifted. He was no longer sympathetic to Blake's claims of emotional distress. What once looked like a victory started to resemble a strategic failure. The bills began piling up. Lawyer fees, publicists, private investigators, all in the name of damage control. Behind closed doors, even her closest friends began to pull away. Taylor Swift, once her closest confidant, stopped appearing publicly with her. Fans began to speculate whether Taylor had quietly distanced herself after realizing Blake's situation wasn't as clear-cut as it had seemed. The Hollywood rumor mill churned fast, and when Hollywood smells weakness, it pounces. People started connecting dots that may or may not even exist. Whispers that Blake had tried to manipulate the press to paint herself as the victim. Theories that she'd leaked selective information to frame Baldoni's team as aggressors. Even claims that she'd pushed for sympathy stories through her media contacts. Whatever the truth, the perception was set. Blake was no longer the elegant actress gracefully navigating fame. She had become the headline. The irony was cruel. One insider from within the entertainment legal circle described it this way. Blake's case became more about control than justice. She couldn't stand losing control of her image, her friendships, or the narrative. And once that slipped, everything started to spiral. The rumors of a settlement began soon after. Some say she's exhausted from a fight. Others think her legal team knows that continuing the case could expose more than she's ready to let the world see. What's certain is that money is draining fast, and even Hollywood power couples have limits when it comes to legal costs. Reports suggest that Blake's side has already spent over $1 million in legal representation, and that doesn't include the PR firms working overtime to manage the fallout. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds has been unusually quiet. Known for his humor and social media charm, he's refrained from making any public comments about his wife's case. Behind the charm, those close to the couple say, lies exhaustion. Ryan is focused on his business ventures, like Mint Mobile and his Hollywood projects, while Blake's crisis continues to escalate. There are even murmurs that the tension has seeped into their marriage, not in a dramatic breakup sense, but in the form of emotional distance, a silent strain that fame can't fix. The real twist came when reports emerged that Blake's legal team might be exploring settlement options. That revelation, though unconfirmed, exploded across tabloids. The idea that Blake Lively, the woman who built her brand on confidence and control, might surrender to a private deal felt like the ultimate Hollywood irony. And as that story spread, another name returned to the surface: Taylor Swift. Sources close to the singer hinted that Taylor had been aware of Blake's situation, but had chosen to step back, refusing to be caught in the PR crossfire. The two women, once inseparable at parties and family events, reportedly haven't been photographed together in months. Fans began dissecting every move, every like, every silence, every unfollow, as if decoding a celebrity Cold War. But Blake isn't the only one facing Hollywood turbulence. The same energy of denial, ego, and money-driven chaos seems to echo across the industry. Take Jake Cutler, for instance, the former NFL star who transitioned from sports fame to reality TV notoriety. Once praised for his charm and quick wit, he now finds himself in the middle of personal scandals and financial disputes. His once perfect image has cracked under the pressure of fame, revealing a darker, more cynical side of Hollywood's obsession with staying relevant. Then there's Keith Urban, whose career has seen more resurrections than most. A man who knows how to balance public adoration with private turmoil, Keith's latest controversy involved a rumored fallout within the country music circuit. Whispers about loyalty, contracts, and creative control. Hollywood is built on reinvention, and both Keith and Jake represent what Blake might soon face: the desperate attempt to rebuild a brand after losing public trust. In the swirl of this chaos, Hollywood itself has changed. The lines between justice, image, and truth have blurred. Celebrities no longer fight for innocence. They fight for perception. A clean verdict means little if the public doesn't believe it. And in Blake's case, that's where the real battle lies. Whether she settles or not, she's fighting to restore something money can't buy: credibility. One legal analyst described the case as a masterclass in how fame can both protect and destroy. If Blake weren't famous, this would have been a simple civil dispute. But because she is, every email, every text, every whispered statement becomes fuel for a global audience eager for drama. Courtrooms become stages, and lawyers become publicists in suits. Even the judges, once symbols of impartiality, feel the eyes of millions as they make decisions that can sway an entire fandom's perception. The talk of a settlement has only intensified because, in Hollywood, a quiet deal often speaks louder than a public victory. It says, "Let's bury the truth before it buries us." And that's exactly what some insiders believe is happening. Rumor has it that Blake's team is negotiating terms that would seal certain records, prevent future leaks, and end the ongoing media narrative once and for all. It's not about guilt or innocence anymore. It's about survival. The whispers didn't stop when the cameras went dark. They only grew louder. The court may have been adjourned, but the real trial was now happening in the public eye. Every fan account, gossip site, and Hollywood insider wanted one thing: the truth about Blake Lively's rumored settlement. To some, it was a shocking twist. To others, it was the inevitable collapse of a carefully crafted image. But behind the scenes, it was much more than that. It was a crisis that tested loyalty, exposed private friendships, and revealed the brutal reality of what it cost to protect a Hollywood empire built on perfection. For Blake Lively, the walls were closing in. The audio leak had damaged her credibility, and the judge's decision to unseal those recordings turned what could have been a private embarrassment into a global scandal. Overnight, the story shifted from sympathy to skepticism. Headlines that once read "Blake fights for safety" transformed into "Lively lied." Audio tells a different story. The PR machinery that had protected her for years began to tremble under the weight of public scrutiny. She had spent her career being the golden girl, effortlessly charming, impossibly elegant, always in control. But now, control was slipping through her fingers like sand. Inside sources from her camp say that the mood shifted drastically after that court ruling. What began as confident defiance soon turned into quiet panic. Blake stopped posting on social media. Brand collaborations were put on hold. Her management reportedly advised her to lay low, a phrase that, in Hollywood, often translates to damage containment. And that's when the whispers about a settlement negotiation began to spread. At first, her team dismissed it as gossip. But as legal costs soared past expectations, it became clear that continuing the fight could become more damaging than ending it. Ryan Reynolds, known for his charm and sarcasm, found himself in an impossible position. As her husband, he wanted to protect her. As a businessman, he understood how fragile reputation can be. Friends close to the couple claimed that Ryan had warned her early on, "Don't push this too far. The truth always finds a way out." But pride can be louder than reason. And for Blake, this wasn't just a lawsuit. It was about proving that she couldn't be silenced, that she could win even when cornered. But now, that fight was costing her more than money. It was costing her peace. Hollywood insiders describe Ryan's frustration as a quiet storm, never public, but palpable to those around them. He had tried to separate his career from the drama, focusing on his production company and his business empire, but the media wouldn't let him escape the shadow of Blake's scandal. Every red carpet appearance, every interview, carried the same underlying question: how's Blake? It was a polite way of saying, how bad is it really? And every time he smiled and deflected, the silence said more than words ever could. Meanwhile, another silence was making headlines: Taylor Swift's. Once known for her fiercely loyal friendships, Taylor's distance from Blake didn't go unnoticed. These were two women who had shared milestones, vacations, family gatherings, even song references that fans dissected endlessly. But as the controversy deepened, Taylor's name vanished from Blake's public circle. No photos, no comments, no mention. Fans who once celebrated their Hollywood sisterhood began questioning if the fallout had turned personal. Sources within the entertainment industry say Taylor's decision to step back wasn't rooted in anger, but strategy. Taylor Swift, now more powerful than ever, understood the importance of staying away from controversy. She had her own empire to protect, her billion-dollar Eras tour, her upcoming projects, her meticulously managed image as a self-made icon. Associating herself with Blake's unraveling narrative risked pulling her into a storm she didn't start. And yet, behind the scenes, it hurt. Blake and Taylor had shared a friendship that seemed unbreakable, built on years of trust and laughter. But in Hollywood, loyalty is a luxury. Survival comes first. The settlement talks gained momentum when Blake's attorneys reportedly approached Baldoni's legal team with an informal proposal, an exchange of confidentiality for closure. The details, of course, remain sealed in legal language and NDAs, but insiders claim the goal was simple: and the public feud, stop the financial bleeding and prevent any more private material from leaking. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who had once demanded transparency was now seeking silence. But the media wasn't ready to let go. As soon as whispers of a private agreement hit entertainment news circuits, speculation exploded. Was it an admission of guilt? A PR tactic? A desperate move to save face? Every outlet spun its own version. TMZ called it a smart escape. Variety suggested it was a face-saving maneuver. Meanwhile, social media did what it does best. It turned rumor into reality. TikTok was flooded with clips claiming to show leaked documents or secret calls, most of which were fake but believable enough to ignite millions of views. YouTube commentators analyzed every expression, every court photo, every subtle shift in Blake's tone during past interviews. The internet had turned her life into a courtroom of its own. Ryan Reynolds reportedly urged Blake to issue a statement, not to confess, but to control the story. But her advisors were split. Some believed speaking out would reignite the controversy. Others argued that silence was digging the hole deeper. Weeks went by with no word, and that silence became its own story. For the first time, Blake Lively, the woman whose confidence once commanded rooms, seemed unsure of her next move. While her personal life spiraled, her professional world began to feel the aftershocks. Several upcoming brand campaigns quietly paused negotiations. A few sponsors restructured their contracts, citing timing and market considerations. In Hollywood language, that means one thing: uncertainty. Studios that once fought for her availability suddenly reassessed their projects. No official blacklist, but a silent freeze, the kind of professional cold shoulder that ruins careers slowly, quietly, and permanently. Behind the scenes, Ryan's frustration grew. He had always admired Blake's resilience, her ability to stay graceful under pressure. But this was different. This was self-destruction disguised as pride. Friends claim he pleaded with her to let it go, to settle, move on, and rebuild. But Blake saw that as surrender. "If I settle," she reportedly said during heated exchange, "they'll think I'm guilty." Ryan's reply, cold but honest, was said to have been, "They already do." Meanwhile, Taylor Swift's camp remained strategically silent. When asked in an interview about her circle of celebrity friends, Taylor deflected with poise, mentioning everyone except Blake. That omission sparked headlines of its own. Taylor Swift distances herself from Blake Lively amid controversy, one outlet declared. Others speculated that Taylor's PR team had advised her to protect her image. Whether it was intentional or not, the silence was deafening. For someone like Blake, who had always valued loyalty above all, Taylor's absence cut deep. The settlement, according to some insiders, may have been finalized quietly, without a press release, without a courtroom spectacle. Just signatures, confidentiality clauses, and a check large enough to make the problem disappear. But in Hollywood, nothing truly disappears. The story may fade from the headlines, but it lingers in whispers, in sideways glances at industry, parties, in subtle exclusions from invitations. The cost of protecting one's image isn't just money, it's isolation. For months, Blake stayed out of the spotlight, avoiding premieres and public appearances. When she finally resurfaced, it was at a charity gala, wearing her signature calm smile, as if nothing had ever happened. But her eyes told another story, one of exhaustion, humility, and quiet defiance. The cameras flashed, the reporters shouted her name, and though she smiled, the old spark wasn't there. Fame can rebuild, but it never forgets. Hollywood, of course, moved on, as it always does. New scandals replaced the old ones. Jay Cutler's controversy dominated sports tabloids. Keith Urban's rumored label dispute caught fire in the music world. But Blake's story remained an invisible thread that tied them all together. A reminder of how fragile power can be, how fast perfection can fracture. The real tragedy isn't the settlement or the money. It's what it revealed about the system itself. A place where image is worth more than integrity, and silence is often the loudest scream. Blake Lively may have settled her legal battle, but her public battle continues. Every headline, every social media comment, every speculative YouTube video keeps her tied to the narrative she once tried to control. Ryan Reynolds, ever the strategist, seems to be shifting focus, immersing himself in new projects, staying politically neutral, and avoiding controversy at all costs. Insiders say he's determined to rebuild their family's image, even if it means stepping away from certain circles that once embraced them. As for Blake, she's reportedly working on a low-key independent film, her attempt at a creative reset, a way to reclaim authenticity after months of scrutiny. Whether the audience forgives her or not remains uncertain. And Taylor Swift? She's moved on, gracefully, silently, successfully. Her empire stands untouched, her reputation stronger than ever. But those close to both women quietly admit that something broke between them, something friendship, fame, or time might never fully repair. One truth stands out among the noise. In Hollywood, every victory comes with a price. Blake Lively may have won her silence, but she lost the sound of her own confidence. The settlement might have ended the legal battle, but it began another, the fight to rebuild a legacy that fame itself nearly destroyed. And as she walks back into the spotlight, the question still hangs in the air. Not whether she's guilty, Not whether she's innocent, but whether the world will ever look at her the same way again.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe my channel Corevanta for more updates. With Sardar Zuriat Abbas Khan Lashari.